Earth is now 8 billion people today. The 8th billionth person will be born today and counting, and this projection will be officially recognised by the United Nations later on today. So what does this milestone in population mean for the planet and our own welfare? Pádraig Carmody is a professor of geography at Trinity College. 8 billion of us on the planet, Pádraig. Is there room?
Yes, I think there is. So we have enough resources. If you look at some recent statistics, there's actually more obese people in the world than there is malnourished people. So it's a question of distribution. So we actually have the resources to be able to feed everyone, for example. So it's more a question of maldistribution. It's not primarily population.
Okay.
Population is an issue, yeah.
So we have resources to feed all of us, the 8 billion, but as you say, it's not quite, it's distributed, I suppose, those resources in favour of the West is part of the issue. But what about in terms of the planet's resources? Like, is 8 billion too many to live in kind of harmony with the planet without being kind of this rapacious species like locusts? Do you know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Yeah.
So I think, again, it's a question of kind of inequality. So if you look at carbon emissions, 50% are produced by the richest 10% of the world's population. So again, it's overconsumption and kind of inequality in the distribution, which is the big problem.
Okay. And so in terms of the geography, and I think we probably all know, like, there are obviously densely populated parts of the world and then others that are much less. So is that largely to do with geography? I mean, obviously there are areas that are almost inhabitable due to heat or cold or terrain.
Yeah. So the countries that have the fastest population growth are in the global south or the developing world. And that's largely to do with poverty. So if you look, in 1975, the population of Africa was only half the population of Europe. Now it's double it. So there's been a huge demographic shift and growth in certain parts of the world. But Africa is still quite sparsely populated. And if you look at a country like the Netherlands, which is very densely populated, we don't think of it being overpopulated because it's able to draw on resources from other parts of the world because it's wealthy. It's able to import wood, minerals, fuel, all sorts of other things. So this is, some people are using the world's resources disproportionately. Other people are not.
Okay. I suppose one of the issues to do with the number of people on the planet, and I don't know if there is a figure, and maybe you could tell us that I know, like, if we can accommodate 8 billion, can we accommodate 9? Can we accommodate 10? Is there a cut-off figure? I'm not sure how you cut it off.
It's difficult to say. I mean, the projections are we'll kind of top out around 10 billion towards the end of the century.
And why would we top out? Just considering,
how would we top out?
Considering, speak to my ignorance. How do we top out? We just become it's self-fulfilling because we don't have enough food or space.
So basically, what happens is, as the world has gotten richer, as people have moved into cities and cities have grown, children move from being a kind of economic benefit, if you like, being able to work in the fields, for example, take care of you in your old age if you don't have social security, to being a cost. People are living in smaller spaces in cities. It's expensive to have children. So there's something called the demographic transition that happens where we choose to have fewer children, basically.
So we no longer we don't replace ourselves for that reason.
Exactly.
And maybe last thing, just because it's actually fascinating. Who knew geography was so fascinating? But it actually is. Is the big challenge, and forgive me if I sound like an Egypt, but is the big challenge going to be migration? That as climate change is occurring, and I've mentioned inhospitable parts of the planet, certain parts of the planet become maybe increasingly inhospitable. Will we see that the millions or the billions who live there then trying to migrate towards more temperate climates, maybe safer places to live? And is that going to be the big challenge with population, the actual movement of population?
I wouldn't say so. So, I mean, we're seeing people trying to move to Europe across the Mediterranean already. I mean, that's happening. There's a couple of things. The first one is, if you have a climate disaster, like what happened in Pakistan recently, people have to have money to migrate. They have to have some resources to be able to get them where they want to go. And if you have these kind of catastrophic events or people are living in extreme poverty, then they don't have the resources they need to migrate. But I think the real issue is the poverty that they're living with. So for me, it's a kind of hard borders policy doesn't make sense particularly for a lot of Europe where populations are in decline.
Okay, so you have such little resources, you're not able to migrate anyway. Okay,
Yeah.
look, very interesting, and thank you for all those insights. That is Professor Pádraig Carmody, they're Professor of Geography at Trinity College. 8 billion of us. Happy 8 billionth day, Shane.
Yeah, it's an incredible figure, isn't it?
Yeah,
it really
huge.
is. But really interesting arguments put there by Pádraig.